Hey guys, today I'm just going to be putting the talks and fizzle talks and just going to be talking and talking and talking a little bit. Um, but there's been this little sort of an issue that I've only recently been thinking of, and that's the shift in my content. And my main channel has a lot more subs, and that's my gaming channel mostly. And I've kind of shifted away from gaming. I haven't uploaded a gaming video in about 3 months now, I think. Um, and I think a lot of it has to do with the industry as a whole. I've lost a lot of interest in gaming. I've moved on to doing rants and watching movies and doing film reviews, show reviews, stuff like that. Um, and I also avoid doing music because I know music's a big problem on YouTube that could get you in a lot of trouble. But um, I've been watching a lot of Jim Sterling, and yeah, I really like when he tears apart AAA publishers and developers and stuff like that, and just every publisher and every developer is just terrible now. And the only good stuff is basically indie stuff. And even indie stuff sucks now. Like, I watched his latest video on We Happy Few, and that was a crowdfunded project that recently sold out to Gearbox, one of the worst developers of all. Only known for their Borderlands series, and everything else is atrocious. They did Duke Nukem Forever and Alien Colonial Marines, which was an abysmal lie, essentially. They showed you really good footage, and the game you got was completely broken in comparison. Ubisoft is also really garbage with how they treat their PC ports and their PC player base. Ubisoft is basically a console exclusive company that somehow manages to sell its stuff on PC and scam people, because they seem to like to lower the quality of their PC ports. I think they're scared of console people being offended that the PC version is superior than the console version rather. Because they did this with Far Cry's 3 and 4. I think even 2 might have done it. They also did it with Watch Dogs notoriously. I believe that's Ubisoft, right? That might not be. That might be EA or something. Yeah, Watch Dogs did it. Yeah, it is Ubisoft, so I was correct in that. Watch Dogs was one of the worst too because the frame rate I think was locked at 30, and the game didn't run properly until you actually unpatched their lowering quality thing. So it made the game look amazing and made it run better, but you had to change the code to do that. And yeah, it's just a bunch of stuff. Actually, it was just one setting you had to flip. And they're notorious for having E3 demos that are way better looking than the final product you get. And then there's Konami, who were assholes to Hideo Kojima. They wouldn't even let him accept his own award for best game or whatever for Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Yeah, he wasn't allowed to accept his own award. Luckily, the guy at the show called them out on it. So people are really starting to get the idea that the game industry is just shit now, and that it's dying. And that's not entirely true, but it's not entirely inaccurate either. And also, I remember all the scandals from back when I was in high school. Oh, hey, they're just paying for good reviews now. I remember when I picked up Modern Warfare 3, or 2.5 rather, it got good reviews, and it was one of the shittiest games I've ever played. It is probably the worst Call of Duty game I've ever played to this date, and it got positive reviews. I think Advanced Warfare is a much better game, and that was the one where it's the series finally started getting bad reviews as it deserved. Um, but we've gotten to a point where I can't even hate on Activision so much anymore because everybody else has gotten so much worse that they make them look good in comparison. EA is notorious for dumbing down franchises like Mass Effect. They streamlined it with Mass Effect 2 and they tried to turn it into Madden. And then Mass Effect 3 was a big disaster with their controversial multiple endings, which are actually the exact same ending with different colors. Then Mass Effect Andromeda, which was probably the worst of the whole series. They couldn't even get their cutscenes correct. One of the characters holds her gun backwards, and they patched it and they just added a hole to the rear end of the gun. They didn't even flip the gun around. It's just really stupid. Really stupid, and people have moved on to indie developers for good reason. But there's even some indie developers, because they're just people. They think they can get away with being scummy like the big developers too. And they filed DMCAs on people. Like there was Digital Homicide, who tried to sue Jim Sterling for I think $16 million. At one point, they got destroyed, but they still end up wasting a bunch of his time and a bunch of his money. And there's been a few developers who have gone after critics for critiquing their games. Total Biscuit notoriously gets attacked by them on a regular basis too. And yeah, it's just something I don't really want to get that involved in. Nintendo as well. I avoid playing Nintendo games on my entire channel because they're notorious for DMCAs, just for Let's Play videos and stuff like that. They're the worst for that sort of thing, actually. So that's a whole console worth of games like that I are just pretty much off limits. And Microsoft, we all know how scummy Microsoft is with their Xbox One release. You know, that was a disaster. And just that there's nothing good out there anymore. Even Harmonix, like Rock Band 3 is still one of my favorite games of all time. I still think it's one of the best games ever made, which is kind of funny coming from a rhythm game that just takes licensed music and just charts it. That game went above and beyond. And then Rock Band 4 was easily the worst game of the whole franchise on release. And now they've updated it, they've patched a few things, but it's still not great. It still doesn't bring me back to it. I don't go like, oh hey, I gotta hook up my Xbox and play some Rock Band now. I'm not making many Rock Band videos anymore. Haven't made one in since the game came out, really. I made a couple. And now it's just like, no, I'm done with this game. It's stupid. Literally, I've only used it for one work party. And that's it. And we only played a few songs and then we moved on to the next thing. And I'm gonna have a whole rant video on Harmonix. Don't worry, I'm gonna save the rest of that discussion for another time. Probably gonna be like a 20-minute, 30-minute rant on Rock Band 4 and Harmonix as a whole. But yeah, when those developers that have put out good content on a regular basis can one day suddenly just turn to pure crap for the rest of their span. Yeah, I don't think I have a lot of trust in the game industry. Whereas with the film industry, I can look up a review for the Nut Job 2 and I expect it to be bad and the reviews are bad and I go see it and it's bad. Or Suicide Squad is another one where people are saying no, it's actually really good and it got terrible reviews. I go see it and I'm like, okay, well, Harley Quinn was decent. And I see it a second time. I'm like, nah, the movie just really sucked. The critics were right. Whereas a game, it might get a 9 out of 10. And I played and I'm like, wow, this is one of the most cookie cutter games I've ever played. This is one of the worst games I've ever played, as was the case with Modern Warfare 3. That doesn't happen to me with movies. I rarely see a movie that gets bad reviews that I like, and I almost absolutely never see a movie that gets good reviews that I don't like. That's a very rare thing. That's with genres that I just can't stand as a whole usually, like rom-coms. And I kind of write those off as being like not my thing. Still, I do consider them to be like lower end. Like Friends with Benefits, I think's like just an awful movie all around. Um, Not sure how that got positive reviews, but yeah, there's way less of that in the film industry than there is with games. And with music, it's all subjective, really. I mean, yeah, you can say Nicki Minaj is objectively bad, and I'll agree with you. But to a degree, you can find crap music to be catchy at the very least. So reviews don't really matter so much to me with music. And even then, like most good music gets good reviews. Like, yeah, and most bad music doesn't. Though, yeah, so that's kind of how I've seen things. I've been more inclined to do other types of videos because I feel more comfortable doing them. I don't really feel comfortable buying games from publishers that I think are scummy and then playing them on day one and stuff like that. Yeah, I guess that's about all. I guess that's the bottom line of it. I guess that's why I just play League mostly. You'll mostly see League videos in the background here because honestly, Riot Games are one of the few companies that I actually used to not like so much, honestly, but now I do quite like them because they've improved a lot. They do continue to improve. They've shifted their focus from releasing new champs all the time to providing a few like good quality skins for purchase and balancing the game. And I think they've done a much better job of balancing the game lately than they've done in the past. Like I used to get furious when they'd release a new champ and they'd just be OP, but like lately there hasn't been so much of that. There's a bit of care, and I sense a lot more play testing that's going on, a lot more thought. And that's, I can also respect a company just focusing on one game instead of putting out a new game each year. And that's another thing Riot's really good at. And even the few things that I've ranted about, like I know I haven't put many positive Riot videos up. I've just put in videos up on a few of the things that have annoyed me. But they, what was I going to talk about again? Oh, I have a bad habit of doing this. Oh yeah, they recently re-enabled the ability to disable the chat filter. So now you can say naughty things in the chat again and see them properly. So that's kind of nice. Though it seems like they've also strickened up on like the amount of like what you will and won't get like in trouble with for banter in game. Like I think I called a guy trash one time and I immediately got a chat restriction for 10 games. And it's just like, really? That seems like a light thing to get in trouble for, especially immediately like that, like within the second that the match ended. But not a big deal, really. Chat restrictions, not really anything. Like, my honor has been temporarily disabled, but yeah, I'm gonna get that back soon anyways. It's not the worst punishment I've received from Riot, but the other thing was definitely more controversial, I will say. Yeah, not Um, yeah, but I guess League is still pretty much my favorite competitive game. It's even better now than it was before. And kudos to Riot. I really wish I could go back to playing games. I wish I had the drive to, but I feel like the whole industry is just kind of scummy. And sure, I will play some games here and there. I will go back to it eventually, but I feel like I've got some priorities at the moment. But anyways, thanks for listening, guys. Have a wonderful day.